Good morning, friends. Am I audible? Hello. Let us start today with a new topic, the research thesis. In the last lectures, we have discussed about the nature of research. We discussed how to locate research. We discussed how research can be searched in literature. And now, moving further, we are going to talk about the research thesis and the content that a research thesis requires. The basic thing that we need to understand in this regard is, why do you want to write a research thesis? It is a very pertinent question that needs to be addressed. Many people, many students, they're engaged in master's or doctoral research. You are doing with master's research, collecting and analyzing data. You are collecting the data. You are reading the books, finding the topic, reading the books accordingly to make your title, to make your topic relevant. You are reading so many books so that you can able to understand that what sort of research, what sort of area that I am focusing on. For that, I have to read certain things, I have to understand certain things, and I'm focusing on that. You interact with maybe various people regarding to your research. You interact with various teachers, and you try to collect the ideas. And after collecting the ideas, you collect the material accordingly. You read it, you understand it, and when the time comes that what you understood is to be expressed, is to be said, this whole process of your reading, of making your topic relevant, understanding the issues, discussing with various teachers, discussing with various friends, with various scholars regarding to the thesis, then you start writing it. And of course, writing is a solitary process. While writing the thesis, while writing the dissertation, you need to work alone without taking support of any of your friends, without taking support of any of your colleagues and teachers. You start writing it. And these tasks of writing dissertation seems to be the most difficult task. Now, if you see very carefully, actually, this process of writing comes under academic writing. What you're writing is academic. But we have to consider, we have to understand the important fact that academic writing is also a kind of creative writing. It should give same sort of happiness, it should give same sort of pleasure while writing. But what happens, the students always feel that academic writing is the most difficult kind of writing. If you see very carefully, my friends, academic writing has to be considered as a creative writing because here you can give your input, your own intellectual world view, your own ideas into it. Dissertation writing or thesis writing is not merely an exercise. It is not a merely instrumental activity. It is an opportunity to understand about the world. If you can concentrate on this creative dimension to the academic writing, you will start to enjoy this process. Otherwise, you feel it very tedious, and that's why most of the students at the end of the session, at the end of the year, starts to feel that it is very difficult task and it is very tedious job. And they have hazardly concluded, they collect it from various sources and try to put it without using their own perception. Why you require a thesis? What is the use of this thesis once you complete it, once you submit it? What is the use of it then? Because it is commonly assumed that once you complete your thesis, once you complete your research work, then nobody is interested in getting what exactly is done into that. Even you don't read it afterwards, but your thesis or your dissertation is a kind of means of communication. On the first instance, the examiners are your readers. The examiners are going to read your thesis, your dissertation, and later on, the thesis is resting on the library shelves. But don't think that the thesis is always kept on the library shelves. Those theses are always being used by future students who are struggling with their own research, who are trying to seek their own research. Many of the scholars can able to get ideas out of your research, and that's why your writing should have that much of capacity so that others who are not knowing to you, if they start reading your dissertation, they should understand it very comfortably. You are dealing with them without meeting them. You are trying to convince about your points without meeting the person directly. And that's why writing, academic writing, is somehow the most interesting. Thesis writing is something most interesting thing that we need to understand. Please remember, my friends, in the process of writing, you will find out there is a sense of development of human ideas. When we start writing, certain ideas are developed. Writing a dissertation, writing a master's thesis, because now we'll concentrate on master's thesis rather than moving ahead with doctoral thesis. Because for doctoral thesis, you are going to attend again a workshop on research methodology, a separate course on research methodology, and then you will come to know that how a doctoral thesis can go ahead. But if you don't understand your masteral thesis, how to write masteral thesis, it will be difficult for most of us to write down the masteral thesis by the end of the fourth semester. So writing a thesis involves building upon the ideas of researcher, what kind of idea he has. And he is trying to bring out what earlier thinkers have carried the sense. And it is trying to lay down a foundation for the future students that you can work further ahead into this particular area. A thesis usually revolves or involves reviewing and analyzing the background literature to the specific subject you have chosen. And the purpose for writing the thesis is nothing but to add into the ocean of human knowledge. It may be possible, or you may say that, sir, we are not adding that much, but your research is adding some amount into the knowledge and you are giving some new ideas to the knowledge world. So, research, when you are dealing with any sort of research, when you are moving further for the research, as we have seen various how we can able to find out research, how we can able to locate research, what are the nature and scopes of research, which we discussed in last week's lecture. We have to understand this important fact, my friends, that writing of thesis is the source for adding some incremental amount into the world of knowledge. Now, before we move further into discussing about how this process takes place, how you have to write down your research thesis, I think we should clarify with certain terminologies that we are going to discuss. I'm using two words continuously. I hope that you observed it very carefully. One is dissertation, another is thesis. Now, these two terms are sometimes used interchangeably to everyday academic conversation. There's a tendency that for dissertation, this word or this term is to be used more frequently in relation to the master's degree, and thesis in connection to the doctoral degree. So, what we are writing? We are writing a dissertation. Please understand this difference between the two words. You are not writing thesis, you are writing dissertation. You may have a question, sir, what is the difference between dissertation and thesis? Dissertation is the shortest format of thesis, smaller form of thesis. Thesis is a piece of formal academic writing which reports on research study. And if you want to understand briefly, take an idea briefly about how these things goes on, you will find out master's degree, as we are pursuing the master's degree, the length of the dissertation is approximately in between 12,000 words to 30,000 words. Now, you don't have any further queries when you start writing dissertation. You should not have further queries in your mind that how much should I write for dissertation. It is expected. It is expected. And it is, you can say, defined and designed idea that the dissertation, it vary in length. It doesn't matter. depending on the type of course. But it will in between 12,000 words to 30,000 words. And then if there is a chance, then there is going to be an oral examination which is called as viva voce examination. The examiner will ask question on your own dissertation and you have to defend your dissertation that what you have done is correct. And once your dissertation is approved by the examiners, it is usually permanently bound. You have seen that dissertations. If not, go to the library, departmental library. You will see various MPhil dissertations, PhD thesis, and some MA dissertations also. For MPhil degree, those who are, because probably your batch will not able to join MPhil because the new education policy is not allowing MPhil as a part of our studies. But the MPhil dissertation is of 40,000 words and PhD thesis is approximately minimum of 80,000 words. Or more than 80,000 words. Now, if you see very carefully, the masteral thesis or the master's dissertation requires a sort of explanation or overall structure which will cover the major ideas although it is a doctoral thesis or master's dissertation, they follow the same sort of contents into it because it is a scientific method of study. And that's a scientific method of study is common always, my friends. You cannot say why the content is different, but the format, the structure of thesis will be the same. 2 plus 2 is equal to 4 as it is same across the world. In the same fashion, the content may be different, but the structure of the thesis and dissertation would be the same. Because it is done for doctoral degree, that's why it is called as thesis. It is done for masteral degree, it is called as dissertation. It is smaller in length with minimum 12,000 to maximum 30,000 words. And doctoral thesis is more than 80,000 words. Understand this limit. Now, if you see very carefully, what are the content? What is required in a dissertation or in a thesis? There is a review of literature. I'll talk in detail about all those things further. A discussion of methodology, analysis of data you have collected, and you are coming to the conclusion. These are the 4 things that are very common in each and every dissertation and thesis. You have to follow this way. You have to write down in this way. You have to collect all the things in this way. First is consisting of a review of literature, then discussion of methodology, analysis of data, and conclusion. And at the last, you will give the list of reference material, which we call as a bibliography. Now, these things in the thesis will probably be written in the same formal academic style. It is divided into chapters and it has to use accepted form of academic referencing. Now, in addition, the dissertation will incorporate fairly a standard amount of preliminary pages, including a list of content, perhaps a list of abbreviations which you have used, or if you have used certain technical terms you have utilized in your dissertation, you have to mention the list at the beginning of your dissertation. In this way, you will have a broad area of commonality, whether it is dissertation or thesis, particularly in the form of structure, what I am talking about. Now, in the review of research literature, which is the first ever part that you have to write down in your dissertation, please understand, my friend, this will nobody will later on repeat all those things to you to understand how will you write dissertation, whether you are writing it and submitting it to the department at the end of fourth semester, but you have to get alert from the first semester that this is how the structure should be, and you have to prepare yourself in this structure only. That's why we have incorporated this in the very first semester, so that you can able to find it out when you're reading the data, when you're reading the text, when you're collecting the material, when you're trying to elaborate that material, you try to analyze the material. How will you write it down? You'll do all those things for 3 semesters, agreed. Happily, you will do all those things. After getting through this, you have started your process of thinking that what should be my topic, how should I write it down, and later on you start working collecting the books text based on your ideas, your topic. Department will distribute you amongst the teachers. Every teacher will have 10, 12, 15. The number is as per the strength that we have in our first year class. And the concerned supervisor, the teacher will be the supervisor of that dissertation. And in consultation with the supervisor, you have to define your topic, you define your research idea, that in which area you are going to work it on. So while meeting to your research supervisor, what are the things that you should get clear in your mind? Most of the time, the supervisor will allow the student to search their own topic, search of their own interest, and they will cooperate you in that direction. Or sometimes the supervisor will give his own idea of topic and ask you to work on that particular topic. In both the way, it will work. So after meeting with the supervisor, after getting the list that which is your supervisor, you start seeking ideas. Or if supervisor says, okay, you decide, you define, you develop your own idea. So you have to develop your own idea by reading various texts, by reading various articles, and what is your idea about that particular thing? What is the area of interest you can generate? And at that time, when you start doing all those things, you never remember all these process. That's why it is a technical thing that what I'm talking about today. This unit is absolutely a technical unit where you can able to understand that what are the things you have to do within these 3 semesters, remaining 4 semesters. Now, what is the review of literature then? Review of literature is treated more thoroughly in doctoral thesis. Please understand in those 2 words. I'll use these 2 words repeatedly because I'm simply, my understanding is that I'm not simply giving you idea about your MA dissertation. My idea is to give a little bit of, you can say, idea about little bit of information about your doctoral thesis also. If tomorrow somebody is going to do PhD in this particular area, you should have idea about what exactly is the doctoral thesis. What should be the topic that we should cover into doctoral thesis also. So similarly, content is small in master's dissertation. Doctoral thesis, it is elaborate. You can do it thoroughly. So in doctoral thesis, the review of literature is thorough because it has to be carried in the form of themes and chronology. You have to understand How many of the scholars try to touch the idea that you are going to research on? How are you going to find out that either earlier somebody did the work on this particular topic or not? You have to go with a review of literature. You have to find out the concepts of literature regarding to it, which are most of the time philosophic. And you have to clarify certain features, that how you are using these terms, how you are using these ideas that are part of the literature, that are part of the thesis of earlier person, but how you have changed it, how you are using it, how you are following it. Otherwise, what will happen? Your dissertations will be considered as plagiarism, copy. You have just plagiarized the thing from earlier person. So you have to give that what you are researching, the current idea of your research, the current topic of your research, and how this current topic of your research is reflected somehow, somewhere in journals from where you received this idea. You may read something. You may read something which struck your mind, and you say that yes, this is the point that I want to explain, I want to elaborate, I want to work it on. And then you start searching that whether somebody has worked on that topic, who worked on that topic, and then you start getting it. You're reviewing it in academic journals, and you try to contextualize the subject matter of thesis after reading so many articles based on this idea or touching to the idea. If you find it is similar, that what you are saying has already been done by someone else, then you have to shift, you have to change, you have to find out that what kind of change I can bring in. You have to find it out, the difference. And you have to search for a masteral dissertation the contemporary material as much as possible. Then you have to explain your methodology and what are the different theoretical frameworks that you are going to present in methodology. We will talk about from second unit onwards about the different frameworks of theoretical methodologies. Particularly, my friends, master's dissertation will place the research conducted within a particular approach. And those approaches we are going to learn from unit number 2 onwards. A particular approach you have to find it. The overall methodology is related to the aims of your study. Why you are doing this? What is your aim? Why you are pursuing this? For example, if you are trying to find out the use of understanding of punctuation marks in writings of an essay or expressions in certain poems, you have to understand which approach you are going to find it out. A structural approach, post-structural approach, colonial approach, post-colonial approach. What approach you are finding out, what approach you are interested in. And those approaches we are going to talk later on. Please don't immediately take a burden of that approaches. But you have to follow certain methodology to understand your idea of research. You have to collect data. And a master's thesis, master's dissertation is having a very limited period to complete it. Please understand. For doctoral dissertation, you may have minimum 3 years, maximum 6 years. So you have a 6 years time to complete your research, along with writing dissertation, thesis, and submitting it and getting over with an examination. You have 6 years time to complete all those things. But in your master's degree, you don't have that much time. You have only time of 2 or 3 months. Your final semester, fourth semester, where you are going to write down your dissertation and submit it to the department so that it will be examined by the examiners. And if required, they will have an oral examination for that. So you have a very limited number of time. So accordingly, you have to decide your length of study, length of collection of data, how much material you have. My suggestion is always to the student is that you should take either one text or two texts, not more than that. Two texts is more than enough. One text is sufficient. One idea is sufficient. By choosing only one single approach. Otherwise, if you take more than one, it will be difficult for you to control, to cover all the things within that period of time, your limited number of time with you. And that's why I said it's a technical process. Because it is following a certain framework. It is having a time-bound activity. It is not an activity which you are running for years together that, okay, I am doing my research for years together and I'll find it out one day what is happening. No. You have to complete your dissertation within a given stipulated time so that you can able to get your postgraduate degree. Considering this time factor, considering the length you have to collect the data accordingly. Most of the time, our students are confused and they come at the end of their semester, they come in the fourth semester, and then they immediately say, sir, what can I do? Please suggest me any topic, I'll write it down. And they start writing anything that is available on the internet, and it is completely called as plagiarism. So they will not get a good grade. Their grade will fall down simply because of dissertation. Otherwise, they are good. They are able to write down most of the things, but the dissertation, the quality that they are going to produce in their dissertation. That's why I said dissertation is a communication. That's why we are teaching this technical thing in the very first term itself to you, so that you can able to work it on rest of the 2 terms, and in the fourth term you can able to submit the thing based on these ideas that have been given to you in the very first term at the beginning of the term. Because whatever data you will collect, you are going to collect it in the sense, if I talk in the form of literature, you have defined, you have, for example, take a simple example for understanding, that you have taken a novel, Arvind Adiga's The White Tiger, or you have taken a drama, Shakespeare's Othello, you have taken for your research. Now, what is research? What sort of research you are going to do on Othello? You have to understand it, because a lot of research is done on Shakespeare. So you have to find it out that it is not going to be repetitive. You have to search it on your in the library on the internet, that whether the topic is done by, or the research is done on this topic by anyone else. If yes, please read that topic and try to make a change in your understanding, that you are not going to follow the same sort of idea that has been already discussed. I'm changing it. I'm making a different kind of argument into it. After getting this idea, then making a title clear, that understanding the title clear, then you are going to start reading your text, and it will take a time to read the text. You cannot say, I'll read the summary of that particular text and write it down for me. The dissertation. Not at all, my friends. You have to give ample amount of time to read all those things, all those texts. If you are not giving ample amount of time for reading of that text, you are not going to clear your ideas. Then you are not going, if the ideas are not clear, you are not able to put it in that structural format that I have talked to you quite a time before. So it is a serious activity, and that's why we are insisting it continuously to our students that please understand this seriousness of the activity, that we have to read the text. Unfortunately, this habit has grown within this couple of years with amongst the student. I don't know why this has grown up in amongst the students. Students are not interested in reading the text. Whether it is because of the semester system or some other thing, I don't know, or availability of internet made you so comfortable that we are not interested in reading the original text that is prescribed for our studies. Why we are getting those texts available for us for reading? Because those texts will give you idea that which sort of things that I can able to work on my research. If you listen very carefully, the teachers dealing with the text, the way they are talking with you on about the text, the way they are dealing with the text with you, because now it is expected as a postgraduate students, there is going to be a clear cut discussion on the text. It is not like a thing to be taught like undergraduate courses, that reading the line and giving the meaning of that line. Not at all. Giving a broad idea about what exactly those texts mean, and then collecting the ideas, then you are trying to find out those ideas, then you're trying to touch that particular topic, that okay, with this I can able to find out the idea in this particular text. I'll give one example. I'm not saying the name of the student. One of the students has submitted a text on uh, dissertation on a supernatural element and the theme of Shakespeare's Macbeth. Now, what are the supernatural elements? How those supernatural elements are helping to develop the theme? How those supernatural elements are allowing Shakespeare to be in close with the audience? He's worked on that particular topic. But for that, you have to understand Shakespeare's Macbeth first. You have to read a lot on Macbeth. And if it is not possible, if you attend the lecture, we can able to understand that what exactly is the idea that Macbeth is talking about, Macbeth is dealing about. That's why the data which you are going to collect needs to be very refined thing on which the whole dissertation depends on, your whole research depends on. And if you are not able to understand that how I am going to collect the data, then it is going to be difficult for us to continue the research, which is one of the core paper of your degree. For all the 4 semesters, this is the core paper. For first year, you are going to have this first semester, which I am teaching you right now, where I am going, this whole pattern is going for 80-20 marks, where 80 marks are for your examination and 20 marks for your internal assessment, which I'll take an examination for 10 marks and I'll take a presentation for 10 marks. In that way, you will get a 20 marks. And then out of that 80 marks or whatever marks you will achieve in writing examination, you will get according to the score. But in the second semester, you have to complete the written examination of 20 marks are given for your submitting of a research proposal, a research paper written in 10-20 pages. That means what sort of idea you are going to develop, you have to think it right from the first semester itself, so that you can able to enter into the research paper in by the end of second semester. And then in fourth semester, this idea can be elaborated and converted into a dissertation of approximately 60 to 70 pages, 600, 12,000 to 30,000 words. This is completely a technical activity. And that's why it requires a better concentration on understanding the things before entering into that. Is it not that when you are traveling to an unknown place, you try to understand everything about that particular place? And in between, if you are entering into another city which is not known to you, for example, if you are going to Pune and if you are entering into Pune, you don't know exactly the roads in Pune, so you try to find it out before entering into the Pune, that which is the road that I have to go. And if you forgot at that time, you take support of GPS. But taking support throughout for GPS can also make you can put you in difficulty. This is a very common thing that we follow in our routine life. Similarly, in research also, we have to understand the fact that to enter into the area of research, we need to understand what are the exact things that I have to do. Then and then it is possible for you to do all those things. That's why understand the length of your time, how much time you have in your hands to work it on. Otherwise, what will happen? You will focus only on making your research available and writing a dissertation, and you will not able to give time to rest of the three papers. Then you will find a difficulty in getting certain good scores into it. So you have to understand how you're going to collect the data, how much data you require to get collect, how much things you have to read, and there comes the role of supervisor with you, which we will talk in later lectures in this week. That what is the role of supervisor, what we are expecting from supervisor, and how the supervisor should work. Then writing a dissertation, academic writing, is a sort of training, research training, because when you read, you have to understand the thing, that you have to mention the things in a specific categories. That's what I said in the beginning, that you need to follow you need to write down the dissertation into the four different things that you have to consist. Your dissertation should consist of a review of literature, it should have a discussion on methodology, it should have an analysis of the data that you have collected, it should have a proper conclusion into it. These are the four major things that you require to have in your dissertation. If you understand these four things, then it is easy for you to understand that how should I collect the data and how much data I should have with me and how much time I should have for that. And if you are not able to understand this, you have to make a research proposal. And please understand, for our internal 20 marks, you have to submit a research proposal to me. I'm asking you to submit a research proposal by the end of this semester. Once we complete our syllabus, I'll ask you to submit a research proposal, so that you have to able to, you need to find it out, that what are you going to do with that, how you are going to deal with that. Think any topic and try to make a research proposal. What is required in the research proposal that I'm talking about? A research proposal is of approximately uh, 5 to 10 pages, not more than that. And in this research proposal, it should contain the summary of the subject and its aim. Please understand. This is what a research proposal, this is how a research proposal is to be written off. And I have to submit this research proposal at the end of this semester to me, so that I can give you marks. 10 marks are allocated for that. 10 marks are for your test, which will take online test here itself. And as I think you know it very well from the current policy of the university in the academic, in this pandemic period, is that we are going to have an examination of 50 marks, and your 20 marks are going to be converted into 50. So how much marks you have to take it in 20, that will be going to be converted into 50 out of 50. So please try to get more and more marks in 20. So if your research proposal is proper, then you are going to get good marks. What is required in the research proposal? If you ask anyone, what are the content, what are the things that we require? So research proposal should have 5 things. Try, and if you think that you have done something, if you want to correct it, you have to verify it. You can verify it. The points which I will give you, you put it all those things into that point, and you can able to understand that whether that proposal is correct or wrong. A research proposal should contain a summary of the subject and aims. What is that subject you have chosen? What is the summary of that subject? What is the aim of that? What is the aim of that research? A justification for the research is the second thing. Why you are doing this research? You have to justify it. Justification for the research is the second thing. Third thing is an overview of the context and related literature. Where do you find these things have been discussed? Somewhere. In any research article, in any book, in any reference that you have you found this particular topic, and you think that yes, this is what I want to do in my research. So justification for research is required in research proposal. Overview of content and related literature you have to give there. Then you have to give the summary of the anticipated research design. How is your chapters? How are your chapters going to be? A summary of anticipated research design, methodology, and inherent ethical issues. What are the issues, ethical issues that you are going to discuss with it? This is the fourth thing that a research proposal should contain. And the fifth thing is the anticipated time scale. How much time you require for that? What are you going to do within first 15 days, the next 15 days, the next 15 days, the next month? What are you going to do? You have to give the time scale that during this 15 days, this is going to be done this much is to be done in the next 15 days, this much is to be done in the next 15 days. Anticipated. Not perfect. Please understand this. So research proposal should contain these 5 things with itself. I'll repeat it once again. A summary of the subject and aims, number 1. Number 2, justification for the research. Number 3, overview of context and related literature. Number 4 is summary of anticipated research design, methodology, and inherent ethical issues. And fifth one is the anticipated time scale. These are the 5 things that your research proposal should contain always. Now, if you see very carefully, the characteristics of any good dissertations depends on these 5 contents that I have talked with you. The 5 contents that I have discussed with you. Please remember, my friends, the dissertation should have clear aims which are enumerated at the beginning, providing a rationale. Why you are having this particular aim? What are your objectives of doing this particular research? You are explaining your research need. You have to explain why you are talking about, because your conclusion that I'm talking, I've told you at the beginning. Every dissertation is having the 4 content with it. There I said reaching to a conclusion. In conclusion, you have to once again mention that what aims you have at the beginning of your research, whether you have reached to that aim or not. whether you find your aim very properly or not. If yes, why? If not, why? You have to address those issues. That's why aim is actually an integrating link in a good dissertation. From the beginning to the end, it is an integrating link, which is setting out the intention of the research. Because what is the intention? Why you are pursuing this research? You have to tell your intention at the beginning of every research. And based on that intention, you are providing a focus that you are going to reach to a conclusion focusing on that particular intention. In simple way, I can say it is a path which you have defined to walk on. A very common thing. This is a very, very routine thing in day-to-day life also, my friends. When you decide to travel to a particular place, when you want to visit to one particular place, you decide which way you are going to travel. If you want to go to Mumbai, if you plan that, okay, I have to go next week to Mumbai, then what mode of transportation will you take? You define it at the beginning. And accordingly, you start to work on whether I'm going by road. In by road, you have again two choices, in your own car or in taxi or by bus, or I'm going by train, or I'm going by air. And accordingly, you plan everything of your journey. Similarly, in research also, in writing of a dissertation also, this is one of the most essential characteristics of a good dissertation, is that you have to understand the aim at the beginning of it. You have to mention that aim at the beginning of your dissertation, what your research aims at. And keeping that aim into focus, you are making a journey of your thesis and reaching to a particular conclusion. The aim is also important in influencing the choice of your theoretical perspective, because your aim will make you to understand, you to follow the theory that which are we going to use there, what sort of methodology you are going to follow. This is going to be decided by, this is going to be defined by nothing but the aims that you have, the aims which you have discussed at the beginning of your dissertation. It will define your journey, it will decide your journey. And that's why aim is the most essential thing in research design, because whether your research design is appropriate to that aim or not, you have to understand this. This is the first thing you have to focus on. The second thing is that there should be adequate review of the relevant literature. It is the most important thing, because the literature selected should be sufficiently contemporary to demonstrate the way in which the dissertation is going to be built upon, how your dissertation is going to be designed. While there will undoubtedly be extracts from different studies and articles, they should not be numerous that they tend to make you to feel that you have taken everything from that particular source. You have not explained your own ideas accordingly. You have to focus that how others have searched that particular idea that you are trying to put it, or what aim you have into your dissertation. So you have to review of the literature. Review of literature is the most important thing. The very interesting thing is that the dissertation should have uh, very well abstract, because if you see the characteristics of a well written thesis, again, I'll give five characteristics of well written thesis, a well written dissertation, you can say. Don't bother about both the words. If I use sometimes thesis, if I use sometimes dissertation, there's no change into it. A well written dissertation should have, please understand this, a clear title and abstract, which accurately reflect the nature of the research study. Second characteristics is a structure and format which help the reader to absorb the subject matter. Third characteristics is an intellectual coherence which starts with precise aims from which follow the research design and reach to a proper conclusion. The fourth characteristic is accuracy in grammar and punctuation marks. And fifth one is consistency in referencing, presentation, and use of the terms. If you do all those things, then and then it is possible for us to understand that how your dissertation is going to be the most correct dissertation that is to be kept in to the library. Because it is technical one, I have elaborated in a very slow way, and I'm trying to give you a simple idea regarding to it. Tomorrow we will talk about how you put your arguments in your thesis, and then we'll talk about what should be the intellectual content that you should have in your thesis with your analysis and all those things. And how will you develop hypothesis? How will you develop your relationship between ontology, epistemology, and methodology? All those things we will discuss in tomorrow. I hope that you got the things in a very proper way and you are able to understand what I am saying. We'll meet tomorrow.